Hello, hello, hello. Crafty Chris here for another Thursday night Scrap Your Scraps. Tonight we're going to be making a belt fold card. I have it in the theme of a Christmas card, but it certainly can be used for any other purpose, a birthday card, whatever. So the important thing is getting the mechanism done. So I am going to walk you through this, your measurements, the whole bit. I won't put them in the write-up. I'll just have them at the beginning here. Now, the important thing to remember is when you're cutting, be careful of your directions, because normally we like to have the spine of a folded card on the left side, but in this case this piece is going to be on the right side, and I'll remind you again later in the instructions as we were working through it. All right, to begin with, you need a colored base that is 4 1/4 inches by 8 5/8 inches. So let me write that on a piece of paper so you can see what I am saying. So this piece is going to be 4 1/4 inches by 8 5/8. Okay, that's what that piece is. You'll need another piece of the same cardstock, and this piece is going to be 3 3/4 by, or sorry, 2 7/8 by 3 3/4. So 2 7/8 by 3 3/4. Okay, so that's your second piece, and we're going to need a piece of white cardstock for the actual mechanism, and you can change the color according to whatever you plan to put on the front of it. So this could be white or some other coordinating color, and this piece is going to be cut at 2 5/8 by 7 inches. Okay. Now the width and the depth, the 2 5/8 is what I have here. It just makes a nice sort of balanced round on this side, and when you open the card up, that centerpiece is more or less balanced. But if you want to create something that's a little bit wider, you need to have more space there, then you can actually make this wider and longer to accommodate that balance in the middle. Okay. All right, and then you're going to need 2 patterns. This is my base pattern for the interior of the card, and that piece is going to be cut at 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Okay, so let me just kind of lay these out so you can see what's going on here. And then this piece on the front panel is going to go be cut, sorry, at, one more sticky here, I love stickies. This piece is going to be cut at 2 7/8 by 4 inches. Okay, so there's all your cuts. You have 2 base papers, you have the mechanism paper, you have the front mat, and you have the inside mat. All right, so hopefully, get a little more light on there if I can. It's quite dark in that corner. That doesn't really help, but anyway, okay. So now we get the scoring. So we're going to take away these 2 pieces, and we are going to work with, and this mat piece, and we're going to work with the 2 larger pieces. So you're going to need to get your scoreboard, and you're going to need to score. The white mechanism card is going to be scored at 3 1/2, which is essentially halfway through the cardstock. Oops, I have lost my score. There we go. So at 3 1/2, did I say 3 1/2? Yes, 3.5. I'm going to draw my score line, and I don't usually push too hard the first time. I go over it maybe 3 times to get a nice score line in there. Okay, so that's that one done. And then the big blue one, I have to decide if I have texture paper, which side of the paper I want to show in the front, and then that I'm going to flip it to the back side. So when I'm doing my scoring, I'm scoring on the back side of that paper. So in this case, I want to have the texture on the front, so I'm going to score on the smooth side. And I'm going to score this one at 3 1/8 inches. And just lightly pull it across 3 times. Oh, I'm going to do that one 4 times. It's a little thicker. Okay, so you get your score line on there. Okay. Now, I am going to fold these and use my bone folder to make them nice and crisp. Okay. And we are going to start with the top flap. There we go. Okay. We're going to start with the top flap of this. Now you're going to want any kind of an adhesive that will give you a good hold. And we're going to put our smaller of the pattern, two pattern papers, the smaller ones going on the front. And I just want to dry fit it, see if my cut lines are sort of straight, which they don't look very straight. So I'm going to straighten that up a bit. Looks like I've got a bit of a wonky edge here. Now which edge looks wonky? Okay, this bottom edge looks wonky. Yeah. Interesting. It's not that wonky. Just a little bit off. My eyeballs went, ooh, wait a minute, don't like that. Okay, so fixing that up a little bit. And I'm going to want to make sure that the center section is well adhesed, because that's where I'm going to do the cutting of my hole for my flap. And then I'm just going to go around, and I'm really going to make sure that all the edges on on this piece are well stuck. Okay, so do I like it with that up there? That like that? I think I like it this way. And I'm just going to center that on there. Give myself a 1/4 inch all the way around. There we go. Now the next thing I'm going to do is from the back side, and it doesn't matter whether you have it this way or this way, we're going to do some calculating. So I am going to take my metal ruler, because we're going to be using an X-Acto knife, and I am going to be measuring in to let's see, so 3 1/8, that would be 1 1/16. So I'm going to measure to 1 1/2 and 1 5/8. So I'm making like a little tunnel, and I just want to make sure that I have the same measurement. And then I'm going to draw these lines lightly, because I'm going to erase them later. You don't want them to show on your card. So I have a set of lines that have 1/8 of an inch in the center, and they go 1.5 inches from the sides. 1.5 inches, and then 1 5/8 inches. So from here, 1.5 inches and 1 5/8 inches. Now I'm just going to take my card, because it's quick and easy, and I'm going to eyeball centering it from side to side, and I'm just going to trace the edge here, give myself a starting point and an ending point so that I know where to cut. And I'm going to take out that section, and I have to do it hard enough to be able to go through the tape and whatever was under there. And this is why you need a metal ruler and you need a craft mat. All right, so I have my X-Acto knife here. I'm going to use, I have a tendency to cut on an angle, so I'm just going to put it on an angle to begin with, and I'm going to cut just slightly above the starting point because I want to give it some breadth, and then slightly below the starting point. Okay, and now I'm going to go over that again. Oops, and make sure that I cut all the way through. So I have done. If I'm a little wider or I'm a little narrower when I do my final cut, it's not a big issue. You just don't want to cut too far down. Okay, so we're going to go here, and then here. And I don't recommend you use the silly blade that I'm using. A nice full-size X-Acto knife is a better choice. There we go. And I made sure I got through. And then on the ends, we're just going to trim those off. And make sure you press hard enough to go through. You don't want to go over it too many times, otherwise you end up... Oh, right, and we have to go a little bit beyond our original lines. So where your cuts end, a little bit beyond, because you want to have the flexibility of when the mechanism is going in and out. You don't want it to be rubbing. And I just have to go over my corners. There we go. And that should pop out. Oops. A little more on this side. Yeah. Okay, there we go. And this little piece just pops out. And if you've got some mess, just clean it up. All right, so there's my opening. And it looks weird, but once we get our background paper in and our mechanism in there, you don't even see it. Okay, so that's all you need your cutting mat for, so you can put that away. Your ruler you might need for measuring later. All right, and your X-Acto knife is done. Okay, so now we have that done. Let's put our pattern paper on the inside. Okay, we're just going to stick it down. It's probably best if we stick it down very strongly. So again, I'm going to be generous with my tape, and especially so in the center section, because that's where the mechanism is going to be pulling from. Okay, and then I'm just going to center this as well as I can in the center of my page. There we go. Ta-da! And I don't like the lighting here. All right. Okay, so there we go. Now, we're going to work with this, and we remember that I said you need to have the fold edge on the right hand side, not where you would normally want it, but on the right hand side. Otherwise, the mechanism will not work. So what we're going to do here is we are going to mat this. So if that's my front, I'm going to flip it over and mat it onto my small cardstock. And I am going to be super generous because I don't want it being pulled off my cardstock. So I'm going all the way around and then a couple down the middle. Okay, making sure my the fold is on the right hand side. I am going to center that in my paper. There we go. So this is now matted. Okay. And on the back, I'm going to do the same thing, making sure I've got lots of tape to hold that mechanism so it doesn't pull off. The last thing you want is the card to fall apart when somebody is trying to use it. Okay, now this I'm just going to center because I've already done my cutting and measuring. I'm just going to try to center this on the bottom page. Now on the inside of this we'll have my sentiment, like in my signature space. This is a bit wonky. And then this will fold over and I tuck that in, and this is now my space for what I plan to put on here. So I've got a couple of die cutty things here and some pop dots and whatnots. So I am going to put those on while this is closed, because otherwise if I put it on when it's opened, I may put something on the spot that's actually going to get tucked underneath. So I'm going to start off with just gluing down my tree, my background tree. And I don't put a lot of glue, just enough to keep it stuck because this isn't holding any weight. And this time I think I'm going to lift it up a bit from the background. On this one I put it right to the bottom, but this one I think I'm going to give it a little bit of space at the bottom. Make sure, okay, and that's at my far edge. Make sure that it there's no glue that's coming out. All right, so that's the first piece. Then I want to put my which side do I want to use? That side. I want to put my dead tree, well, not dead tree, but my tree that has lost its leaves right there beside it. And then I'm going to put together, because I know that the words are going to be over top of the foliage that I have here, I am going to glue down my foliage first, and I'm just going to glue a little bit because I know that it's going to hang off. Like that. And the nice thing about using quick dry glue is that you can rub it off your fingers. And then I'm going to line up where I'm going to have my words coming across. So this is going to say Christmas. It's going to say Merry Christmas. So this is going to be, going to really need to have it right along the edge of this greenery, because it's quite a large word. There we go. And I'll put the capital C on there after the fact. And the Mary is going to go above. So I think for the purposes of figuring things out, this is going to be pop dotted, but I just want to have it here so I know where I'm going to place it. It's going to be there, pop dotted. My Christmas, I'm going to just trim off the excess I have on the Christmas stem. Well, actually, you know what? I think I might leave it on. So that stem is going to go behind there. Okay. So I'm going to stick this down. I'm going to let it go over the edge there. It's about halfway. Put some glue dots. And a couple of glue dots on the word letters. Normally I would run that through the Xyron machine, but it's a bit thick. So we're just going to let it sit right about there. There we go. The glue I'm using is clear, so I'm not too worried about it showing up on my card. And now I have to find the C. And adding the C to Christmas. And I think I need to stick a little bit on the end here because it's popping up. There we go. And then my Mary is going to go across the top. And the open space there. And you can do this with stamps as well, and you can do coloring of little items, Christmas items. There we have Merry Christmas. And now I'm going to pop dot. First of all, I'm going to have this. There we go. Need a teeny one for up at the top here. So I just trim down my pop dot. And then a full one at the bottom. There we go. And I'm just going to stick that right on top of, oh, I better not put it right on top of the C. So I'll move it over a bit so you can see that C. And there you have your finished face. Now what I did on this card is I just put a line of stitching around, which you can add after the fact. And the trick to doing a line of stitching that looks fairly even is to look at the tip of your pen, not where you're going. And one thing you need to remember is that you have to go behind the card as well. So I'm going to pull that out and just finish up the rest. There we go. So this is our finished card. You open up the belt, your sentiment, your Christmas sentiment is inside. Okay, so that is the belt fold card. And for our second card and our final card tonight, we are going to be doing an infinity card that flips open continuously with no beginning and no end, although I have kind of discerned a beginning to it, or an end to it. Anyway, let's get started on this. So what you're going to need is, you're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 base papers. Okay, and they are measuring, I think it's 3 by 6, so this is a great way to use up your what do you call them? Your 6 by 6 paper packs. So here is 3 by 6. Yep, so these are each 3 by 6. So you need 4. You can have them all the same, you can have them different, but they need to be double-sided. I chose to do different ones. On this one, I did all the same, but they were double-sided. Okay. Then the next thing you're going to need to cut is, it can be from one paper or many papers, it's totally up to you. With this, it's easiest if you don't have a direction. As you notice, I did very well with my direction here, so everything really looks wonderful until the very last one, and then I'm upside down with my stuff. So it's much easier if you can do it, to do it with a non-directional pattern, which is tricky at Christmas because there's trees and everything go in the right direction. But we're going to try, you know, focus on what I'm doing this time so that everything gets in the right direction. Okay, so I've got the 3 by 6s. You need 4 of those. Now here, these ones are 2 3/4 by 1 3/8, and there are 12 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can use the back sides. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or you can have them all the same. Totally up to you. And then you need, these ones are 1 3/8 by 1 3/8 inch squares, and you need to have 16 of these. So I've got them divided into tops and bottoms just to give a mix. And then the final one you need is, you need 4 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 pieces. And what I decided to do was cut up some of the journal cards that come in your collections and highlight the sentiment. So I'm going to use those sentiments in my 4 main areas. So like for instance here we have 1, 2 main areas and 3 and 4 main areas. So I'm going to have the sentiments so that they can be used on their own. You don't have to put anything in there in terms of, you know, something to decorate it if you choose to decorate it. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to be doing is scoring, like we did in the last one. I'm just going to move my little guys out of the way. So we are going to take our papers, all of our 3 by 6 inch papers, and we are going to score them at 1.5 inches. Now don't go too heavy on the scoring, and you want to make sure your paper is a medium weight, not too heavy. Cardstock should be okay, but some of those fancy you know, 49 and market papers are going to be too thick for this. So there's 2, and as I said, I'm scoring this at 1.5, so basically down the middle. 3, and I'm just going over this lightly 3 times rather than trying to push hard, because that's when you break your paper. Okay, so all 4 of these now have been scored down the center, as you can see. Now I'm going to turn them sideways, and I'm going to score them at 1.5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This is a very bad tool because it's starting to give out already. It didn't come with my ScorePal. I just can't find the one that I need for my ScorePal. So I'm doing both edges of the cardstock. So you end up with, and it's all the same size, so you end up with squares on the ends here. So 1.5, 1.5, and my last one at 1.5. Turn it around, 1.5. Okay, so that's all the scoring you need. You can put your scoreboard away. Okay, so now, oops, I need that back here. I just want to start folding all of these papers. Oh, actually, before I do that, I think I'm going to do my glue. All right, so what we want to try to do is line up our papers as best we can. So that looks like that right there. And we are going to glue the 4 outer corners of our paper. So we have a 1.5-inch square here, 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 and here. And we are just going to glue those. I'm going to start with the top. So I'm going to do the 2 tops first, and then I'll move down to the bottom because I have very quick drying glue. And I just want to make sure that I get the glue coverage, but I don't want to go over the lines. So, because if you go over one of the scores, it won't work properly. Now I'm going to take this, and this square, I'm putting it in the opposing direction. So this is vertical, this is going to be horizontal. I'm going to line up my square, if I can grab my paper, so that it matches right in that corner, and I'm going to make sure that those papers are lined up. I'm using white glue, which is not great with brown paper, so I want to make sure I don't get paper glue on the front. Okay. Just make sure I push that down. So basically what I've done is I've glued that piece vertically across, or horizontally across the verticals. Good thing I'm sticking stuff down on top. So here I want to do the same thing. And I'm going to take my bottom corners and I'm going to line them up. I usually pick it up to do this so that I can really make sure I'm lining them up perfectly with the corners, and the same on the other side. Okay, good. So now I have all of my corners glued. Put my cap on my glue so it doesn't dry out. Okay, now we're going to start folding and pushing down our fold lines. And you're going to do that to all of the fold lines. So we did that. Now we're going to do this. So I did those lines, and now I'm going to do these lines. So you're just going to make sure you fold everything back and make those fold lines nice and stiff. And you're kind of forcing the paper to go in the direction you want it to go in. Okay, look at that. Look at that. Okay, so let me see, what else do I have to do? Oops, don't want to do that. Put that and that. Okay, so 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Okay. All right. Now I want to make sure that I have this open. And when I do that, there we go. That shows these guys. Okay. So I'm going to start from my center page where where it looks like this. And now I'm just going to start gluing down the different things that I have on my page. So if you look at this, I have my 2 1/4 by 3/4 by 2 3/4, and I have 2 of the small squares. Depending on how you want it to show up, you can choose what you're going to put in the center. I think I might put something light and bright in the center. Wait a minute. Whoops, it's not the center I'm doing. And all is calm. Although, now I'm thinking I'm going to have green, so I should probably do my green and one of these guys. Keep Christmas in your heart. Joy. Or maybe I'll do it like that. Okay, so I'm just going to take my glue and I'm going to glue it down. Centered in that frame. Do the same here. Centered in the frame. Oops. Here we go. And now I want to put things on the corners, and I have a choice. Well, that's not going to work, so we're going to work with the beige dots on this one. Okay. And we're just going to line them up, centered. And the decorating of this is something I will leave to you, but I'm sort of just giving you a start with showing you that you, in addition to, I think I'm going to change the direction of the, sorry, I just noticed this, got sidetracked. I'm going to change the direction of the weave in my paper so that that's going to go down. Yep, and this is going to go over here. Centered, there we go. Just so that I am not avoiding having something too directional. And there we go. Okay, so there is my first page. Now if I open this up, this is the one I made an error on. So we're going to fix this one right away. Okay, so I need 2 pieces that are, I'm going to put this one here and this one here. Make sure that my trees are in the right direction. These guys don't really matter because they're you know, random tree bits, but I can choose what random tree bits I use. There we go. And then my 4 corners, I am going to just stick to the dark green. So there's my plan for this. And I'm hoping that I won't mess up my directionality. So I am, whoops, putting these guys down first, centering them inside their squares. There we go. Don't want to get white glue on the front. And centering it within that line of the fold. There we go. Move it over a little bit. There we go. All right, and now these guys. And I'm playing with the weave to go in a different direction, which is great because that's what makes it more visible. There we go. And then my little pieces at the bottom. And these I'm going to rotate too so that they're not all going in the same direction because this is sort of like a stone finish. And I want to make sure that the finish is not identical. Some of you may prefer that it's identical, but I don't. I like to rotate the direction. There we go. This is like pulling teeth right now because you're watching me do this, but when you see it all splayed out, it's really quite something. And just continue to fill in those little bits of squares. Whoa! There we go. Okay. And let me just wipe that off right on there. Okay, and there we have another page finished. And so now I'm going to open this to the center page, okay? And we are going to have Marry Together and All is Bright. And I'm just going to add these guys in here. There we go. And these panels are long panels, so I could either have the dark green or I could go to the light, or I could have a combination of both. I like the light, and it doesn't matter what direction they are really. Or do I want the dark? No, I like the bright. I like the wetter one. Okay, and I'm going to probably vary the direction on these guys as well. have you hanging down. So that looks a little more normal. And this guy's gonna hang up. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna have him come out from the bottom. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to flip this over. And we're going to finish up here. So we can have dark greens all the way across, and light greens. Have a combo of the two. Have the dark in there and the light on the outside. And let's see. We can have the plain green or we can have the light. Since that is light across the top, I think I'm going to do light there. Let's see what the interesting backs of these look like. Okay, that one I like because it's got a lot of brown in it. And this one, or do we do them all light? Oh, I could do that too. I think I like that, so I'm going to put that together. And it's just coincident I have In Your Heart sitting there, which is awesome. Actually, that's going the same direction as those guys, so I'm going to turn this around so that it's a different direction. It's the weave of the paper that I'm talking about. I'm trying to change the direction so that it looks a little more dynamic. Oh my gosh, that actually lines up. That's crazy. I don't want that side by side. I think I'll have to do that. Yeah. I guess you could, if you wanted to, line that up so that I went side by side, but the other pieces didn't match, so it didn't make any sense because I couldn't make a full picture across. There we go. We're almost done here. Can I do this like that? I think I need to because I don't want to have too much brown at the bottom. So I've been paying attention here. These, I like to, like I said, move it around and make it look a little more dynamic. Okay, and then just these two guys and we're done. Now I do want to put a spot for me to write a sentiment. There we go. All right. And then when you flip that open, you're back at the beginning. So that's where we started, and everything seems to be in the right order, which is awesome. So So this just keeps flipping around and around and around and around, and where it stops, nobody knows. You know what? This Joy one is a little bit mediocre, so I think I'm going to put a journal spot there. That's where I'm going to actually put my sentiment. So I'm just going to cut that down. So this is 2 4/16. So where's my cutter? My cutter. So I'm going to put my sentiment on there. 2 4/16. No, that doesn't make sense. 3/8. There we go. Okay, now that's square. So this piece is 2 3/8 by 2 3/8, and that's where I'm going to put my stamp. And I think I'm going to edge it slightly with some brown, or some black rather, and I'm just touching the edges. I don't want it to be too deep. There we go. I don't want it to be smudgy. I think this one I did it very, yeah, see, I've got that smudgy edging happening around there. I don't want that on this one. Okay, so now my adhesive. And I'm just going to pop that right in the center. And that's going to be for my journaling or my sentiment. Okay. So there is the beginning of, no, I had this the other way. Now I'm confused. Oh, there we go. Alrighty, so there's our 2 cards. This one is a more traditional card with some sentiments already in it. You could go ahead and put pictures in there, or you could put little doodads and decorations in there if you wanted. There we go. You know, I started to put some decor pieces in here. Where are they? They're upside down. That's interesting. How did that happen? Oh, because that whole page is upside down. So that's my upside down page. So that's not so good. So be very, very careful when you're putting this together. You want to make sure that everything is either non-directional as possible. Look at that one, ended up upside down too. So non-directional, folks. That's my my big key on this one. Alrighty, that's it for me. Have a great great rest of your week and a great weekend, and I will see you next week.